the MVP Coffee Party.
Welcome to MVP Coffee Party. So, next evening, next beautiful guests, and more than beautiful hosts of the MVP Coffee Party. No? Okay. So, at first, welcome my co-host Hans Brender, who's dancing all the evening. So, but we have to switch now and say, okay, now we have to make a podcast. But all fine. So, welcome to the next coffee party, and I want to introduce you the wonderful, beautiful, and famous MVP Vesa. So, say hello to the audience.
Hello,
and
audience.
Introduce yourself a little bit. Where are you? Where are you living? Is it hot? What's your beautiful and lovely songs or book or whatever? It's your turn.
All right. Thank you, Raphael, and thank you, Hans, for having me in this MVP coffee party. Unfortunately, I don't have any coffee with me, but because it's late evening and I try to stay away from that so I can get at least some hours of sleep. My name is Vesa Nopanen, and I live in Finland, in town of Turku. So this is on the south coast of Finland, and it's thinking about the directions. Southwest, somewhere there, and it wasn't that hot today. Actually, this was the day when all the hot weather faded away, and it was replaced with thunderstorms. So it was kind of 10 degrees less than yesterday. But I have to say, after that 2 weeks, it's been rather welcome, especially when you have to do the work and stay inside all the time. But about me, what should should I start? I started my IT business career somewhere in mid-90s, so I'm young compared to Hans. At least I think you were doing the kind of podcasts of your own by that time already, or you had already video blogging or at least audio blogging by that time. So I'm a new kid on the block compared to some of the real experts here. But I started as a software developer.
Again a developer.
So I was coding, yes. Wow. With C#. Not C++, because C# didn't exist yet. But eventually I went to the databases, I went to the SharePoint, business intelligence, project management, and whatever you do after that, you are in sales, you are in support, you are in everywhere. And after that, it's kind of cooking up as a consultant. And after a while, 2012, I got into Office 365. And after a few years, Jammer was hot during those days, and 10 teams came out, and here we are, basically. So I've been working with teams for over 3 years now, 3.5 years, roughly. And I started blogging about things a few years back and sharing information, and finally getting to be an MVP. And this is, of course, exciting times. In 2 days, I know about the renewal results.
Yeah, we are. Me too, Hans.
So
you
I can still say I'm an MVP in this point. But yeah,
if not, it's only a coffee party, so it's all fine.
Yeah, it is. But hey, I'm not going to go for any famous songs here, of course. But what I'm going to tell is about the city I live in. Turku is a very beautiful city, especially during summer. Most of the Finnish cities are great during the summer. Sometimes winter is not that fun, but I think Turku is great during the winter as well. So there's the one river going through the city, Aurajoki, which is very nice because you have those river boats, which are actually bars and restaurants. parked on the both sides of the river, so you have several places to go for a drink or food. But that's and there's this, of course, Turku Castle, which is a medieval castle in here. But that's ancient history, and it's going to be a fun evening talking to you guys.
Yeah, we can now switch to Finnish. So iksi, kaksi, kolme, neljä, viisi, kuusi, seitsemän, kymmenen. So that's the only one I can talk to you. So I was in Finland for vacation, and I think it's now, let me look, 50 years ago. 50 years ago. Yes. So that was my first trip to the northern part, with 2 buses, so VW bus, the old one, and a Hanomag. And the first thing starting to Finland was that we come over the sea from the ferry, and the ferry is very special. Still, the Finn and also in Denmark and Sweden, it's a little bit special because they drink too much. But anyway, we came and we have on our tire, we have no air inside. So that was the first thing coming inside. I think I don't have any idea where it was, but you are the last one coming out of the harbor. That was the first one. And then we drive and drive and drive. And in the morning, we have to say, okay, where we are. And we ask some person, and they say, oh, that's not the right direction. You are absolutely wrong. That means if Raphael is going to Munich and want to go to Hamburg, he is driving to Munich. And in Munich, he asks the person, hey, where is Hamburg? So you have to go 600 kilometers to the north. That was very special. And that was during the times where the people also says, okay, we should not have a special thing, means for dancing. In the old days, I say in the old days, all the ladies have to say, okay, I want to dance with you. That's normal. In Germany, it's vice versa. So the first, I want to dance. In these days, I don't want to have to dance. Therefore, I have to learn and have to say, kytos and dancing. No, I have to repeat and lift me. Thank you. I do not want to dance. So that was the 2 sentences. And the other one was we come to and have for 15 people we were have to go inside a store and have to buy some eggs and Muna. So that's the third one. And now it's gone with Finnish. So that's very, very special about my Finnish translation.
Yes, but you did the Finnish parts quite okay. And I'm still very, I'm amazed how good memory you have. If that was 50 years ago and you haven't practiced any of that since that.
That's not correct. In the old days, I was a DJ, and therefore, normally you have to check. We have a mobile equipment. We're going from one to the other one. No, that was not with scratching before. We have tapes. We have tapes with us, no recording players and so on. So, and the first one, we came into a room where later on 400, 600 people were there. It's absolutely forbidden during Corona times. But anyway, it was very special. And to check the sound system, you have to say, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, test. You know that. That's always, you see that has nothing changed. But if you check that, it's the same. I can say 1, 2, 3, 4 in German. But sometimes I have to say, okay, yksi, kaksi, kolme, neljä. Therefore, if you do it a lot of time, you never forget that. After 50 years, I still can count them. Yeah.
Are you still DJ?
No. That was the old days. You have to check up. As a DJ, now I'm a video DJ. You have with all this stuff. That makes very interesting that in the old days, you have some hardware. You have some microphones. Yes, we built that together, and it was very, very expensive during these days. And therefore, you have to look what is the best one. And we decided to do a little bit here and there. We have to have some mixer, and now the mixer costs only 10%, 5% of the old equipment. So that's the different of the story. But Anyway, you know the stuff, and now you have all these inside with mixer inside a PC. I have it here, or mixer of the video signals. I can also have there. So it's the same, but it's a little bit better, and most of them are free. That's very interesting to see what you can do with all these things. But anyway, sometimes you have to learn. But I have to say, okay, it's time. No, later on, I will talk a little bit later on. But what I have to say. Yeah, Raphael, what's cool. Your week at the beginning? You want to go to vacation?
Week, yeah. I hope to go to vacation, but yeah, that's not possible. And from our region, there are next COVID hotspots, so we can't travel everywhere. And the countries around us said, okay, oh no, you come from the Cologne area and Gütersloh and Warndorf, you can't come in, and all of this. So it's crazy times, but yeah. The weather is okay. You can hike a little bit, but hopefully we can travel. So for us and Vesa, I think it's the same for you. We travel a lot to customers, to MVP summits, to Redmond for focus group meetings or whatever. And currently, no, we can't travel. But I heard from you, Vesa, around your house, there's a lot for drinks and foods. And is there also a lake or what are your famous situation there? Or famous place?
Famous places. Yeah. My home office.
It's okay. Right. It would be bad if it's not.
Our favorite places. Yeah. But yeah, this because we are by the sea. There's a beautiful archipelago next to Turku, and so there's of course lots of beaches. The closest one is just a couple of kilometers from here. And but it's often very crowded, and so we are usually taking a car or bicycles and going a bit further away and getting a bit more space, because especially as you mentioned these times, you still might want to keep some distance. We don't have that bad situation at Finland, at least not currently. But of course, why risk it? Okay, now Hans is started to play.
Hans is playing. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, there are lots of great places. Favorite ones, of course, going to the swim. I don't want to spend a day at the beach. I'm not that kind of a person. The old medieval castle I mentioned, I really enjoy that one. And of course, there's a couple of great whiskey bars in Turku. As well as a kind of whiskey connoisseur, enthusiastic. Yeah, I went to several tastings a year, but now they are kind of there won't be that many of those tastings.
So whiskey is the favorite drink in your area, but out of my view, I think it was vodka or like this. So in the Russian area, so whiskey is more Ireland or is it also Finland? I don't know. I ask you.
Well, we can spend next couple of hours talking about whiskey, but let's just say, it's usually Scottish. Some people drink Irish, but I usually prefer the Scottish ones. But there are several distilleries in Finland as well. For example, the Kyra is doing the rye whiskey. There's Terenpeli, which is a really they are doing. I don't know. They are rather old already. So I don't remember which year they were founded, but 15-20 years ago almost. And there's the Old Buck Beer Hunters distiller, which is the oldest one, but they're making very small quantities. And then there's the Valamo, which is a monastery distillery in the eastern side of Finland, for example. So there are several in Finland as well. I know there's some German as well. I just had to, because when I was visiting Nuremberg last year, and there was I was talking to my sister and about the whiskeys, and we found out there's a Bavarian whiskey slurs. So I just had to take one bottle to test what kind of German version there is, and there's more in German, but That's the only one I have so far. Yeah. But yeah, about the vodka stuff, that's usually vodka or Koskenkorva. That's in Finland.
Okay.
The usual drinks, but in Turku there's very active whiskey hobby group. So this is a kind of great place to have this kind of hobby and go talk with the other people.
And a great question, we had Peter Döring here. He lives near Nuremberg in Bamberg, and he's told they're drinking a lot of beer there, and also they have beer gardens. So in Finland, nearby you, is it also a tradition to go to the beer garden, or is it more like whiskey tasting in a group of friends, or how is the feeling in Finland?
How's the feeling? Well, the bars are bars, I guess, everywhere. But when you go to the whiskey tasting, of course, you know everybody's to the same thing. Just like when you have an MVP meeting, we all have something that drives us forward, and so we can always find something common. We talk with each other, so it's kind of there's a similar feeling in that you are if you are in a hobby group, of course, everybody is sharing things. It's loose group. It's not a kind of like you have some kind of a hockey crew or something like that. Instead, there are people, ice hockey stuff or football or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's more like there's people coming and going, but you eventually get to know more and more of them. Like I didn't know Hans before my first MVP summit. And that was a kind of we met at the airplane when we were traveling from Frankfurt to Seattle. So it was a kind of interesting flight and getting to know him. And
he has no chance.
No chance.
but that's kind of the funny thing out of all these having this community stuff. It's everywhere, so you get to know people. Eventually, they are starting to pop up later, and I think in the past half a year, almost a year, we've been interacting a lot more than just during the first few months.
Mm-hmm. So, and you are the MVP for Office Apps and Services, so like us. Okay, that's cool. Yeah. That's cool. And one of our typical questions, if we found someone out of our product group region, what is your famous tool? Peter, it was Access. And your famous one is?
Let's think. That's a really hard one.
No, if you don't have one, it's okay. You can have 10. But what do you think? I wake you in the evening or in the night and say, Vesa, what's your famous tool? What do you answer?
Teams, always.
Okay, yeah, okay.
It's because I'm an Office Apps and Services MVP, but I have a very heavy Teams focus, and I really what should, I don't know, is believing a great word for that, but I believe in that tool because it has already changed the way we work together. It has changed lots of us from solo work to teamwork. It's kind of giving you that platform or that kind of capabilities that will drive it forward to that direction. So it's doing 3.5 years ago, it was a very kind of interesting to start working out how are you going to use this. This looks a bit strange, but after that, just after doing one sales process with a bunch of people with teams early on, then you can see the power, why it's so much better, and kind of see the light. It's not a religion, but it's kind of because I wouldn't be an MVP about that if I didn't believe in the tool.
Yeah.
And because it's just not something I have to do. It's something I want to do. I want to share that information. I want to kind of bring in the best usage out of that. How are you going to use it? It's still a tech. It's still a tool, but the practices matter, and how you start adopting those practices into daily work and creating things. So yeah, I'm very passionate about Teams. So that's going to be the answer if you wake me up in the night.
Yeah. Why not? I know someone who said, okay, it's OneNote. So
Yeah.
Well, fine. Everyone has or her favorite, so that's all fine. So Hans,
what's your favorite?
What's your favorite? It's OneDrive. So
yeah, I know.
No. It's a bot. Now
it's a bot. It's a bot.
Depends.
Okay.
During the days, it depends. So we have to wait till the new fiscal year, and next week, end of the week, we will have although the bot for the preview, we're rolling it out. We have some problems still with Teams, but our listeners know that the bot is running in Teams. So therefore, it's not so easy to test all this stuff. And I have filled out now more than 560 questions about OneDrive, more than I have slides. So that's interesting, but it will twice as much. There is so much to tell the people. But the issue is that you can have a lot of things. And now inside Teams, we have still some problems, some bugs that are really there, means rendering actions and so on. But it's not inside of that. That means, okay, a small 9:6 picture will not be correct rendered. It will rendered like a square, and that's not correct. But we know, and that's the interesting part, that the mobile version is working correct on this stuff. So therefore you see, hey, it's a different engine, but we have to look for that. And sometimes it's not so good because although the Q&A, they make a new editor, we have talked in the last session, that is okay. But now I have found after lots of hours what's going on, what is correct and what's not correct. And you have to say, hey, I have written some C++ code, so you know why C# has a C# symbol. If you think of the two pluses and you make the double set, again, two pluses behind, and you correct the line and fill it, that's a C# symbol. So it's an easy part. It's a double of that you have in C++, now you have in C#. But anyway, if you know the people, and writing code is not a bad idea. Although for the younger people, have to say, yes, you can start. It has nothing to do what you will do later on, but you know the logic behind the scene. So you have to say, okay, I am now in Azure, but I have to switch to that, and it could not be there. Or this new editor is very interesting because I have to say the editor people, or this guy who has written the code, does have written the things, but not for the user in a perfect thing. So there is a description that says, okay, carriage return line feed will not work. You have to do it \\l \n. That's the carriage return line feed. We will eliminate that. That's correct, but should not be eliminated. Means if therefore they have a symbol now and now you can switch off an editor. The editor is good. You can now have all these stuff for the first time, but if you want to correct and make a carriage return line feed for better reading, it's not possible in this editor. So you have to go and switch the editor off and put some carriage return line feed in Markdown. And then you never have to switch on the editor, because the editor, if you switch, carried all this stuff out. So thinking the guy has done the correct word, but not in the thing of a user. So that's the different. Yeah, if you see that and you say, okay, it's here, it's there, inside of all this stuff, it works, but it doesn't work well if you go and display this stuff. That's okay. That's for the bot. So this time it's the bot, and I have to give back the thing. Here you have it. I gave it to you, Raphael, and now you have to can say what's your preferred tool right now.
My preferred tool is sensitivity labeling and the compliance manager. So I'm a little evangelist to classified and categorize data because it's not only the thing that you can have encryption or labeling or like this. On the other side, it's a great tool for example, search to find your data. And this is one of the topics, and I have a look a little bit into Vesa's eyes, also what you think. If you work with teams, and if you work in a company and your data grows up, for example, 1 terabyte per month, 1 terabyte per 6 months, and you have more and more data, more thousands or millions of data. And sometimes you have to say, okay, I have to find my data. And it don't works like a folder structure. You have a folder and next folder, next folder, next folder. You are clicking and we all know sometimes in SharePoint it don't works. You can synchronize and you have issues. And with labeling, for me, it's also part of to find data. Where are the data? What happened with the data? So that's all fine for me. So in your Vesa, in your direction, out of a developer view, what do you think about Microsoft Teams? You said you worked at the beginning as a developer with C++, is it right? Yeah?
Yeah, that was a really long time ago.
It was really long time. but I think you have a little bit feeling in you, or a little bit developer feeling. So what do you think Microsoft Teams as a developer platform for bots, Hans has announced, or Power Apps and all of these new and modern things?
That's funny that you asked me that question, because I've been I can't say I'm been concentrating fully on the Teams app as a platform, but I've been concentrating more and more to that in past 2 months. So I've been going. I started with those application templates, those bots, getting the bots and getting them up and running. Then I started to work with the Power Virtual Agents, getting the bots into Teams. As you can see, it's still a low code or no code approach. Yeah, I try to stay away from those really developed bots because they consume a lot of time. And I'd rather concentrate on how I can utilize those bots inside Teams, what I can do with them, what the customers and users can do with them, instead of focusing on how I create them. Because for that purpose, those bots are really a great tool. And you mentioned all the trouble of finding the data. Well, we don't want to go to the subfolder maze or labyrinth, because that's endless, and some people like that, and I really try to stay away from that, because I don't want people to categorize the data through the subfolders. That's not really something you should do. But going a bit towards that category stuff is about when you are working in channels, you have a context for those files. Of course, you can tie up some governance or labeling automatically through that context, because when you have that channel, you can apply things. We know what the theme is, what's the context in the large sense. Then you have the channels. Again, you have the context. You can apply that data, that metadata to the documents if you want. But as long as it happens automatically, because I've seen that time when some people really wanted to have those metadata. Sorry, I don't have wide enough picture here, because they wanted to add those 50 metadata just to classify things, and because they might need some of the metadata in 10 years. And we all know how that went bad. but later on, when now we can use the Teams platform. Hey, I'm getting back. I'm getting almost as good as Hans with this. I usually say I really talk a long time as well, very easily. Atypical stuff for Finnish person, but hey, you don't get to be an MVP if you don't talk. So I had to learn to change myself, change my nature. But the thing is that going and doing that, using that platform, Power Automate, whatever, sensitivity labels, automatic labeling, tying that stuff into SharePoint library, to the document library, to the folder level, to the channel folder level, getting that things done. That's kind of something I really think that it's going to help with all this categorizing stuff. Eventually finding the information, because they can also, with the Graph API, you can tune things together. I don't think that finding the information is actually really difficult in Teams. That's what I hear a lot from people, because from the people who are not looking it through Teams wise, they just want to go to some blank page. There's the search, and you start searching, but they don't have any context. But if you start finding the information through Teams, then you already have some context in your in there. So that's why I think it's going to be excellent, especially when you can tie in some of that metadata automatically there, and with the Graph API that knows who your network there, because thinking about the Microsoft search when it's coming out, and thinking about what has been told that, for example, the documents that has been shared with, let's say we work as a team, and these are the documents we are working a lot, and then we start looking for the information. That's kind of the first focus. Okay, is it this kind of information? Because, hey, that's tied to this project we work on, and something like that. But yeah, the bots and everything, yeah, that's the kind of thing I see in Teams. That's how you extend it. That's how you can also bring in surface information. You could surface those documents, make it easier for the users. Not easy, like Hans explained about the user interface of the editor. If you switch to the auto view, you lose everything. No, because instead there's going to be lots of use to look into the data, lots of different methods, and you're going to need those applications. You're going to need the Power Platform. You're going to need the bots, and to enable users to manage that information, just like through the Hypercube or something like that, if needed. And not everybody's into Teams. Some people are only using the mobile app. They don't have that kind of all the search stuff available for them, or they may be using the desktop. They can utilize it fully, but you still need to have those applications there and make it up and running. And I think bots would be a great thing if you start teaching a good bot that could help you find the information as well. Because that could be a metadata category aware. It would know about, okay, is it shared? Is it internal only? Perhaps using a sensitivity label there to find that specific, eventually helping you find that information. And just one step away from you having Cortana, you could speak to that search there and start kind of tuning it down. I don't think Cortana is going to be very fun in our success in Finland, but not for a while. It's going to learn that 1, 2, 3 easily, but they might not want to learn the other words, so that's going to take a while. I think your people are more lucky about that before when you can start using Cortana or Siri or whatever to find the information sooner. But yeah.
So for me, it's interesting. On the weekend, I have 2 Mercedes here because I have to bought a new Mercedes. I will do it. I will take the Corona things to get more money for the old one and all this stuff. And it's very interesting that Mercedes also have UX. That's a command system. It's very interesting what you can do. But on the other side, if you look for all these stuff, you see it's good, but it's 2 years old. And they have to say, okay, this system working with the cloud, but they have now 2 years. And in 2 years, they only have implemented that you now have access to a horoscope of your own. Hey, that's not a cloud technology. So you see, the gap is so much. And in the old days, you have to say, okay, all these navigation channels is very bad for these people because their update is too expensive. You have to go inside and so on. And now they can do a little bit more. But it's still that we have in Germany not have so much good traffic in there with internet. G5 and all this stuff, you need that information. Live traffic is still not live traffic. It's 2 minutes old live traffic. And you are driving to a city, it's too old. 2 minutes, it's very bad because you see, hey, Raphael can tell us a lot about traffic inside Cologne and so on. Yeah. So that means it's still working. And the cloud is there, but we cannot use all this stuff in the right direction. Sometimes you have to look, hey, in Finland, you have a good connection. In Germany, you have a bad connection. We don't talk about ours, but inside cars and so on, that makes it a little bit better. And not only, okay, I can have all the insights in green and you switch a theme and then it's all red. It's perfect. It's very interesting. But it's not the thing that I want to have 2 years ago. Yeah, you understand what I mean? Means they're standing around and say, okay, it's very interesting. And now you have a horoscope for you. That was one other feature, but it's also not what I want to expect. And on the other hand, and now I have the question, it's in Teams, we have during Corona, so many new users, but also in the shortest time, so many new features. And people always say in Facebook and all these community areas, hey, what's there, what there, what's here and what there? That's a problem because people are not switching. Why is this button now on the left side or not on the right side anymore? That's for me a thing. On the other side, bad, 2 years. And on the other one, so quick that we all people need the functionality 9 to 9 or 49, 7 to 7. And people has to react, hey, in the old days, you have 3 years to a new license.
What do you think, Vesa? That's a very big topic we discussed often in our community. What Hans told, we have new features and all of this. How the administrators and how you handle these evergreen principle with new features every day, and you don't know in which feature is activated and all of this. That's an issue for us as consultants, also for the IT administrator. What do you think?
Well, it requires a lot of continuous learning. It helps to have a network. Looking from my perspective, I tell people about this new stuff in Teams. And I notice there's a lot of other people nowadays who are doing that very actively as well. So I follow the network as well, and I can get signals even before I see them. So that's and I'm sharing my part as often as I can. But of course, there are people who are young and very even quicker than I am to do that, and that's really fine. But thinking about how you can use them, how you can use the capabilities as well. It's just about not learning about that one button or okay, this is something that does something differently. It's important sometimes for the end users who are looking for that information, but in overall, it's about how the organization are going to be training or letting their users know about this, how they want them to be used. So Teams is, I think I've said it in a few times, is basically Teams is getting a lot of new features. They are getting lots of changes, but the thing is not. You don't have to use them all. You can, and you select the ones that are most important that for the business and for the schools and for the communities, however you are going to use them, and you concentrate on sharing the message about them. But as an IT admin, you need to follow the network. You can't live in a basement and read a book about the latest things, because that's going to be even more than 2 years old anyway. But instead, you have to follow what's out there and at least read the admin messages they are getting automatically. So they have to be a bit active. And well, you can attach the Power Automate to that flow to that and get that information to a team, etc. But assuming they don't, which is usually the case, is that they just have to choose the channels they follow and then stay up to date. And especially about the admin stuff, not everything is in the admin portal. There's lots of PowerShell that comes out first, and you don't necessarily know about those. What's out there, what they can do. It's funny, but if you follow up what's out in the PowerShell, you can discover some features before they are activated. But
you need time.
NDI control is there, but you can't set it. And but it's great. It's there. Just be aware. Okay, it's coming, and there's sometimes there are features in the admin center. Okay, you can set it, but they don't do anything yet, because the feature is not out there yet. So and sometimes there are features that you don't have an admin control, and that's an issue for some organizations. But then if you have a turn on or off feature, then it might be enough. And I think Teams is getting better and better with that because they are bringing more admin controls, at least faster than they did before. Yeah.
Therefore, I also see the problem in the admin center for the administrators. I think 1 or 2 years ago, I say, okay, admins have more time for other things. But now they have so much to do and you have to be early. If a mid-sized company, we've had not so much admins, the admins have more work than they have to before. They do not have to patch anymore. That's okay. But they have to see what is going on with this feature and the other feature. Does it work? And you need a team for that. And people always say, hey, that's our users. And here we are the admins. We know all the stuff. And that's not longer possible, I think. And that's a critical part of that because people do not see all the stuff inside the admin center, what's going on with different functionality. And all of our 3 people know that each company is different. It's nothing you have in a separate way. And that's the thing.
Yeah. But the thing is that you always have people who are kind of forerunners, some of who are champions, who are the edge, living on the edge, testing out things. So you have to start kind of empowering that network inside that company as well. So you have a team of champions who are very enthusiastic. Okay, you can do this with Teams or you can do that. And they can be more in contact with the admins as well. Mm-hmm. And have more kind of dialogue well, you're both in German, so you know the hierarchy stuff, but it's not always the most successful companies are not necessarily that hierarchic anymore, because you have to have that kind of a collaboration between people. The IT department should be talking to these champions, perhaps even to end users now and then, having kind of that feedback, what they are really needing or what's the issue. Mm-hmm. And the Champions Network, those who are very passionate or enthusiastic about Teams can tell them about what's available or coming up, so they can start learning from there as well. And you don't have to necessarily, if you start thinking about that, you don't have to necessarily follow up everything and try out everything, but you can use the network and community for that to learn new things. And that's a kind of a very, not that solid bridge, but the bridge anyway, basically to bring out the importance of communities. Because if you attend those, let's say, monthly meetings, they are usually online these days, so they take an hour of your time or 1 hour and a half. You will learn how the other companies are doing that. They will learn about the pitfalls and they will learn about the cool stuff. Mm-hmm. So it can help. So they don't have to start from the scratch every time, because I think that's the biggest change in this world compared to some of the 15 years ago, because the network wasn't that strong and everybody had their own IP. They basically had their own knowledge, more or less. I wasn't an MVP at that time. Well, I've been here for a year and a half. So, but the thing is that in Finland, I think the SharePoint user group it's now 10 years old, and kind of bringing that information. It wasn't that a hot topic. The user groups were something like, "Hey, that's a really techie stuff." Yeah. That had nothing to do with the end users. Now it's something totally different. You can attract people from the different interest groups and have them share the information, and they basically have this crowdsourcing going on, because you don't have to hide the knowledge, because you have noticed that when you share it, it's going to give in so much more, because everybody's having those issues. So basically just going those steps forward in much faster than you would do it alone.
Yep.
Yeah, perfect. Crazy. I have one more question. We make a lot of meetings every day, and sometimes, for me that like this, I want to meet you in person. So, what do you think, Vesa? How these online meeting, working from home, will work? How it will work for the next 10 years, or do we have more and more people that said, okay, let's meet together, I catch a train at Cologne, and we'll come to you and let's talk a little bit face to face. What do you think? Will we have a mix in the future, or how long it will work?
We will have a mix, and I'm definitely not if you are wanting to have more support on the face-to-face meetings, I may not be the ideal person, because for past 10 years I've worked mostly from home. So actually this crisis didn't have a lot of change. I don't have travel anymore, at least for now. I don't. But the thing is that I wasn't traveling in vain before this either. When I went to the office, if there was a real purpose, I went to customer meetings, of course, etc. But on the other hand, I was doing all those at the same time online as well. Because people are realizing now it's going to save time. You don't have to have unnecessary meetings face to face. It's great to meet face to face. It's not that I really enjoy face to face meetings, but the thing is that they need to have a purpose. It may be even socializing part. Well, I always said that, okay, if I go to the office, I don't really get any work done. I meet people. I don't meet them usually. And I can think, because, for example, this meeting, this would be, of course, it would be fun to have this meeting face to face, but we have to face it that it would happen very rarely. And with online, we can do it much more often. We have videos on, and I think for the next 10 years, this is going to be more, I'm not saying norm, but it's going to be better experience all the time. So the need for some of the face-to-face meetings is less, but when you meet, they are going to be more important. And I really hope at one point, somewhere, I don't know, is it going to be 9 years or 2 years, most likely 9 or 12, is that when we have a meeting, we don't have to specify, is it face-to-face or online specifically. Hey, let's meet online. Instead, we might be talking, let's meet, and only the location it's going to tell it's online, or hey, or should we be meeting face-to-face, or is it virtual reality meeting?
So I think it will come in this direction. I think it could be. But listen, the thing is, we all know each other. And for new things, it's not so easy to connect. Yeah. There is still a gap inside Teams or inside the thing to have this networking. And I know a lot of people going to Ignite for networking, not only for the sessions. Yeah. Though I have done, and last year, let's say 70% for networking and 30% for going to the sessions. So yes, if you have the chance to speak there, then you know the stuff, but you do not have to pay for that, because all things will be recorded, and we will see that and have that although with the build, and we will see it although during the next Ignite, that all things are recorded, and that means you can have that. But I need some people, and for the new MVPs, not for the 1 year MVP, and not for the 18 years MVP. For the MVPs, there are now an MVP, and next time we will have one. There's absolutely 1 month or 2 month MVP. So that's a different. They do not know the other people. Yeah. So that's the thing. You make a gap, and that's not easy to close that.
And you have to ask on like this. For me, Vesa, also is very interesting that we discuss also with our people here in Cologne or with our MVPs in Germany about the same topics. And it's very interesting that's a discussion, and the resolution of the discussion, if offline, online, and all of this, is nearly the same in Finland. So, and we talk also with some from India and all of this. So we have all the same challenges. And we have often the same solution, that we said, okay, it will be mixed in the future. And we think 2 times about if we travel 4 hours for 1 hour meeting and travel 1 hour back. So, yeah. And last thing, I think it's very crazy and interesting as an MVP in these times. So if you started in these times and you know no one, you don't know which one you can ask, or the beer the beer or whiskey roundtable at MVP Summit is what we are missing, and how you talk to each other, and that's in the network growing up is that's a challenge for the MVP program. So if we have more and more new MVPs, hopefully also in 2 and 3 days, and then we have more in the next winter or summer and all of this, and we know that next year will be only online. So we have 3 or 4 or 6 MVP rounds or waves with new people. And now I think our leads will meet and will create more and more online meetings, for example, with other MVPs. So I think one of the main reasons why we're an MVP is the network and know new people. For example, also me, I learn Hans in the MVP network, not before, because we meet in person and talk to each other. So that's the same. So I think this is one of the challenge we can give to the MVP program, not only for the conferences. For conferences, okay, you can make breakout rooms and all of this. But for an MVP and community program, I think it lives from in person too. So I don't know. It will be interesting.
It is interesting, but of course it's really up to us as well. How much we create that possibility to meet for example, have this coffee meeting, beer meetings, whatever, having that kind of free talk sessions, not necessarily all the time presenting or having a podcast, but instead having, hey, let's meet kind of sessions, bring people in, thinking about the bar table. You don't want to have too much people because nobody can get their voice heard. But if you have 20 people, you can still have more conversation. I know myself. It's for way easier for me to speak out in a smaller group. I know this is recorded. It's going to be shared later. But now at this moment, it's just 3 of us, and it's a huge difference for me to speak out my mind. And then to have that kind of opportunity for the new MVPs as well. And we are very active in community, all of us. So we are out there. We just have to kind of find a way to tell people, hey, it's okay to reach out to us. And if you have any questions, kind of be there, have mentoring, have something like that, but also to create that kind of opportunities. I know online, there's lots of online events. So people are getting tired. They are not going to be attending everything. And that's something that happens and will happen. And it will cool down to the reasonable level at some point, but still there's lots of people, so there's lots of opportunities. So you don't have to attend everything, so we don't have to talk with every new MVP out there. But instead of having a kind of people who provide that opportunity, then you can have a lot more communities out. And out of this MVP stuff, the Chris Horder and Del Ginger and Chris Webb, the ones I worked a lot with teams first, with Euro teams, and having met them during this year, it's been really kind of a fun to engage, and we have become very good friends. And me now I'm talking to you guys, so I know I'm kind of expanding my number of friends here, which is great, and it's always a good thing to have more and more connections, and more or less personally people. So having this coffee party, this is a great idea from you guys, because it's just you could say, okay, it's just a regular chat, whatever, but
that was the beginning.
Yeah,
it was the beginning. You don't know the beginning. We don't tell him. Well, it was the beginning of the MVP Coffee Party. We are talking to each other, and sometimes I don't know who of us said, "Okay, let's record our talk," and the other guy said, "Okay, let's book a domain." And who has Azure content with a web app, and after the recording, we have a website, and the video is, or the audio recording. We start with only audio recording, and the audio recording was on the website, and so MVP Coffee Party was born. So, that this is one of these ideas, and I think also that these crises and all of the things will happen in the next year. For example, if we have a second crisis or whatever, we have a chance to do new things or to test something. So
you have to be very quick.
Yeah,
because I have to say at the beginning that I will also have to say an announcement, and we have still 1 hour, so that's a lot of time, right. And therefore I have to say, okay, submit all this stuff, and you say, okay, it will be changed. We will see what happens. We spoke about 1, 2, 5, 10 years. And on Sunday, I have submitted my application for retirement.
So
it's not the thing is that my tax lawyer has to say, hey, you can do that, because I had done it before coronavirus, but this is a part you not to have to do it perfectly. You have to do and say, okay, it's a thing, but my tax lawyer has to say, yes, he has the same age and I've done it online. I have to say, very interesting, but I want to work a little bit more. We want to have the next year and the next year, or maybe. So, there's no things. It's the same money. You can do it. You can have both.
Oh, okay.
And therefore, I have to say, okay, it was not so easy. You have to know which thing you have to done 1986 and all this stuff. Hey, it's not so easy. Online is easier. And where do you live there? And where do you live there with the German Republic and come together and all this stuff? That's the stuff you have to do it. But I have done, submit it, and we will see when it's done. But it's a new approach, because the young people, hey, it's 50 years between us. And the people still have to say, okay, that's a little bit more experience. It has nothing to do with programming and all this stuff. You learn a little bit of this. And I think the most important thing for the young people is you have to learn with the community. It's easy. You can give. The only thing what you have to do is spend a little time. That's also for companies, administrators, big companies. No, it's on Saturday. I don't go to this event. Why not?
Yeah, I know.
You can spend a little bit. It's more easy. You can ask. If you read all this stuff, it's less. And therefore, do this. That's the thing. That was the announcement was I have to done. Yeah, I have spent the button and I have to say, now it's go out.
It's a perfect sentence. Now go out. we have to leave the cafe before someone came and steal our chairs like this. So before COVID crisis, we have all of these issues and challenges. How we get a new drink, but today we can go near to us in our home and get a new drink. But as a virtual cafe, I would say thank you very, very much, Vesa. It was a very great talk. I learned a lot. For example, whiskey tasting in Finland. So
welcome.
It is it's a new challenge after COVID crisis. My girlfriend is Finland and Norway lover and loves all of these areas, and so why not? So whiskey tasting in Finland is on my checklist. On my Microsoft to-do list. One more. On my Teams task app list. So, thank you very much.
I take the paper.
Thank you, Hans. See you hopefully in 2 years in person, and next year or at the end of the year or whatever, in the next meeting, in the next conference, in the next MVP coffee party. Why not? Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
The MVP Coffee Party.